Okay, we're going to get started. So today we're going to be talking about tips on investing in real estate. There's definitely multiple ways that you can do it. The easiest way that I've done it before is I've flipped a couple houses. We've had agents who they live in them and flip them, which is always cool as well. That's more of a long-term investment, but I mean, he's made plenty of money from it. And then we're going to be talking about how to work with investors as well. And that's what I first want to get into because majority of us will actually work with investors when working on the real estate side. So this is what I pulled up here is a rain search. And I'm going to show you guys usually what I look when I'm either looking for a house for myself to flip or if I'm looking for an investor to help flip. Now, investors are great because you can help them buy a house and help them sell. It's almost a double whammy every single time. But being able to work with them is key because they can be very, very difficult. And when I mean difficult, there's investors out there that are going to say, hey, I want you to submit 10 offers for me and see how they go. If we get one, we get one. And technically, you can't do that unless you had money for all 10 houses. So what I want to show you is exact search that I would put in. So I'm going to make up a buyer here. Say he only wants to do Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Suffolk for a house. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to limit the areas. So I've got Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and now I'm going to look for Suffolk as well. Well, this guy, he's got some money. He's telling me that he can go up to $300,000 on just the purchase of the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 0 to 330, and mainly because if there's a house at 310 that is perfect where there's a lot of investment room, it may be a good idea. So I usually go up higher. Plus, cash is king, so we can always negotiate down. It depends. I'm going to ask him, hey, are you okay with townhouses and condos or just single family houses? This guy only wants single family. So we'll say, okay, single family. My next question is, do you care if there's like 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms? He says, yeah, no less than 3 and no less than 2 1.5 bath and no less than 1,000 square feet. That way I can start narrowing down my search because we have 1,000 houses right here. So there's a couple things next that is really separates this from every other search. One thing that I do every single time is I take out all contingencies. Want to make sure that I'm not sending him any houses that are under contract. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up bank repos, government owned, and short sales. That's short sales. There we are. So now that brings us down to 71 matches, which is actually a pretty good search to start with. I can see here on a map where all these foreclosures and short sales are because bank repos and government owns are foreclosed. And I can see there's actually a lot in the Suffolk area, not as much in Virginia Beach, more in the Lynn Haven, and then quite a bit in the Norfolk, South Norfolk in Chesapeake section. So then at this point, I'll say, okay, is there anywhere where you don't want me to include in the search? Just says, yeah, I think this over here is too far, so we're actually going to take that out. Exclude, so that way that house doesn't show up there. And then he even says, okay, these houses over here are way too out there as well. I don't want to go out there. They don't have good resale potential. So we're going to exclude those shapes as well. So now we're left with 68 houses, which is actually not bad. We're going to pull these up here. We can either start with the highest price or the lowest price. I'm just curious to look at the top over here. You can see this one is a short sale, listed at 330. Original list price was 350. And let's look in the middle or in the photos a little bit. So it actually doesn't look too bad. It looks like, oh, okay, that green though. It looks like it needs a little bit of work. It needs to be a fixer-upper, which looks good. Now, let's see if there's any notes in the agent remarks. Short sale, professionally negotiated, bank approved price. Now, this is huge because bank is going to pay 3% closing costs, and the bank has already approved the price at 330. That's huge because a lot of times with these short sales, they'll just say start at 350, right? they'll have someone go under contract and just say at 350 or 340, and then the bank can easily come back months later and say, no, I want 360, 370, which is horrible. So seeing that the bank has already approved the price is huge. So this is great. The next thing, this thing is a bummer. They're only offering 2.5% to the buyer's agent, but that's okay. Still at 330, it's not too bad. I know a lot of you guys aren't realtors, but if you are a realtor, I suggest going to RPR and taking a look at the property as well. And it really, really shows a good CMA for you real quick and easy. Let's just check it out. So it says this house is worth roughly $387,000. So in my opinion, it's listed for 330. Since it's a bank approved price, you're not going to get anything less on it. But what's great is you can buy this house and have 57,000. What is that? 57,000. I saw the 8. Sorry, 57,000 in equity already, which is amazing. Now I'm going to go to a bigger map here and just look around in the general area and see what other houses are going for. Now I can see there are actually quite a few in the 4s, but they have way bigger lots. I want to find something a little similar, like over here at 412. That is 4-bed, 2-bath, 3,500 square feet. It's 3-bed, 3-bath, 3,100 square feet. So it's only 400 square feet off, which actually, if it were me, if I was going to flip this house, I'd potentially try to push it to that 390, 395 mark. Because when looking at this house, it doesn't look like it needs too much work, which is actually great. Now, photos do hide stuff, but it really just needs needs to be cleaned up, shined up a little bit, maybe some new flooring. Definitely needs paint. Let's see the kitchen real fast. Kitchen doesn't look too bad. Backyard looks great. This would actually be shower's even nice. It's just a little dirty. And this is actually a great property if you were to live in it and stay there for 2 years and then sell it, or if you're trying to make a quick flip. So say you put in, just say 15,000 on this house, because honestly it doesn't look like that much. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the calculator here. I'm gonna pull up 333,000. And then I'm gonna put 15,000 into it. So we are at 345 now. Well, if I was to sell this at 395, which I would want to, closing costs is generally for us, since we're going to be selling it ourselves, we're going to save ourselves at 3%. And just say if we did offer closing cost assistance, we'd probably be paying roughly 7% on this property. So let's figure out 7%, which is $27,650. So now I'm going to take that from my costs. And then this is the break even at 365. Say I bought this for 330 and I put 15,000 into it. So on this house right here, flipping it, putting 15 grand into it, I would make roughly $22,000. And this is me if I bought this house myself. If you're working with an investor, it may not be the best property because he'd be taking a little bit of risk. But if this was you flipping the house, it's a little different story. Now, imagine if you bought this house, put the 15 grand into it up front, lived in it for 2 years or 3, had the value go up just a little bit more. I mean, when you sell this, you could potentially make $30,000 or so on it, which is pretty nice for living in a nice house in a nice area. So that's usually how I would find my flips. It's even better when you can see short sale bank approved price. If it was at that 350 mark, it wouldn't make as much sense. But here it really does. So, hey, if you guys want this house in Suffolk, I'd go for it. Now, our agent, Paul, he does a great job at doing this, actually. He'll buy these properties, live in them, and then sell them 2 years later, so then he can avoid the capital gains tax. Now, the very first house he ever bought was like $85,000 townhome. Maybe not in the best area either. But what he did was he fixed it all up himself. He had some work. He got some contractors, but he's a pretty handy guy. And all said and done, place looked beautiful. And I mean beyond gorgeous. I think I have some photos to share. But anyways, he he put in, I only want to say like $20,000, if that. I don't think he put too much. We'll have to get Paul's input on that later. But because of that, here we go. I even have the before and after photos. And this is Paul's first property. So you can see the kitchen here. Definitely not the best. Again, he bought it for $85,000. Definitely does not look pretty. But these are the houses that have great potential. I give him props for buying this thing. And I've hung out here, so let's go to the actual photos. And this is when I was listing his property. We listed it for 160 when he bought it for 85, and we sold it for 160. Now just look at this. It's just a huge difference. Painted it, put tile, brand new kitchen. Just what a difference on what it looked like before. Yes, Paul plays the drums. He was a single guy at this time, so you know he had drum set in just another room. But yeah, this was a very, very nice house. It definitely wasn't the prettiest up front, but he was able to turn it into something nice. Didn't have to front too much money because he did the work on his own. He even moved the shed all the way in the back, added the fence, put the new siding. So it just looks like a brand new house what he did. Now, Paul may be a good resource for you guys because Paul used to be a project manager for a house flipper. So he has every contact in the world when it comes to knowing people that can do this. I'm not sure if Paul did the siding himself, but either way, he has contacts for anything you can think of and for usually the cheapest price as well. Remember, Paul's house used to look like this one. So it's crazy the difference of the two. But Paul's a good resource. I would reach out to him. It's Paul Dating. He's one of our agents here. Again, see him here, ask him questions. If you ever have a question about something too and what it costs, the dude could give you a pretty good rough estimate of what it would cost to fix up, and he could usually point you in the right direction too. The next thing that I want to talk about is if you guys were to flip a property on your own and how you guys were to finance it. Because not everyone has money, just 330 grand up front to finance. So my very first property, I didn't have 330 grand. The property I bought was 215,000, and I'll actually go to it here. I'm gonna search it. So I didn't have 215 grand in my pocket, and I was like, how do I get this property? Because I came across it, and I was about to list it. My nana, my grandma, she came to me a good while ago and was like, hey, my friend just died. Her heirs just took over, and they're looking to sell the property. It needs work, so you'll probably have to help them out quite a bit. And I was like, okay, no big deal. Yeah, I'll go ahead and check it out. So as I'm in there, I'm walking around, and I'm in Kings Grant, beautiful neighborhood, and this is the listing right here. And I was like, man, this is phenomenal. Like this location is great. The bones are good. It's just ugly on the inside. And so I was like, this would be a perfect flip. And so what I did was I went back home, ran the comps, and saw that I could potentially go up to 420,000 when we were going to list it for like 240 or so. And so I went back there, and I see them scrubbing the floors just because it was a dirty, disgusting house. I mean, straight from the 60s, hasn't been touched. And so I go in there, I'm like, and it is the three kids who are like all in their 60s. And I was like, guys, what do you owe on this property? And they said 215. We need to get out 215. And I was like, look, I'll give you that 215 cash. And they're like, you got a deal. So it was amazing because I was like, okay, great. I'm going to get this house 215, but how? So I had to figure out how I was going to get that money. So what I did was I reached out to quite a few people who I knew flipped and found out a lot of them do hard money lenders. Hard money lenders are great because they actually will finance a lot of the project for you. I estimated it was going to take roughly $80,000 to fix up because, I mean, it needed a lot of work. But at 215, $80,000, I technically needed 295,000 to fix up the property I wanted. And to get that, I had to figure out how. So I went to a hard money lender. We talked. I told him my ideas. He came to check out the house as well. He thought it was great. And ultimately, what we would do is I would tell him how much I needed. So I told him I need 295,000. He was like, okay, that's fine. What we'll do is you'll pay interest up front. And so I had to throw down 27,000. I can't remember the exact interest rates of what it was. I think it was roughly 10, 11%, probably 10% if it's right around 29,000 here. And I had to put that up front. So I had to front 28,000, which wasn't as bad because now I don't have to front 295,000. And then what we do is every month I would pay interest of, I can't remember the interest, but I was paying $1,500 a month, basically as a rent mortgage payment to the hard money lender for basically keeping the house and then funding me. Now the best part about that though is he was giving me the 200, let's just say 70,000 to fix up the house, which I needed. So I gave them 28,000 on the closing table, and they funded the rest, the 215. From there, I now own the house, and now the agreement was I would fix up the house, and every 15,000 I would spend, he would come back to the property, look at the results that we've done with that 15,000, and then he would give me a $15,000 check, which was nice because now I fronted that money. I actually put it on my credit card to build credit points and get mileage points and all that. And then he would reimburse me 15 grand. So it was super nice having that money back in my pocket. Because the next flip that I'm going to talk about, I did cash, which is completely different than hard money. But anyways, I was basically 295 in this property. Definitely an ugly property, but the end result is this right here. It was beyond beautiful. We redid everything inside the house. We even painted, curb appeal. I mean, I put my blood, sweat, and tears in this property here, and it came out amazing. That flooring was 99 cents. It's something at Home Depot, just amazing stuff you can find and for cheap too that look good and are actually really, really good. I used a lot of my contacts on this property, and what I did was instead of hiring a builder, I was basically the general contractor. So I went there every single day, managed the property, made sure all contractors were on board, what they needed to do, and make sure all finances were in order. I kept track of all finances on an Excel spreadsheet to make sure everything was straight. And yeah, this house just came out completely beautiful. We got a full price offer within just a couple days. This house actually, so it went on the market on a Thursday. I held an open house that Saturday and literally had 100 people come through. It was absolutely insane. Just so many people. I did advertising for it too. Got a couple buyers out of it. Just beyond beautiful, everything we did here. And it was a full rehab for $80,000 too. I mean, we literally did everything. So then the next house I did, that was a hard money loan. The next one I did was straight cash. You know, me and my dad go in these projects as partners, and we were like, you know, we gave because in the end we ended up giving the hard money lender about 17,000 of our profit, which still isn't bad because in the very end of it, my dad and I made $80,000. So technically we made 97 and we gave 17 of it to a hard money lender for interest that he allowed us. And then the rest we got to keep, which was 80 grand, which was extremely nice. The next one that we did was our actual cash. And I tell you, the worst thing about that was not having cash on me. We completely funded the whole thing ourselves. We bought the house for 150. We put 75,000 into it. My dad agreed that he would fund the whole house, so the 150, and then I would fund all the rehab, so the 75. And I tell you, at that point, my bank account only had like 80 grand into it. So I was completely dry towards the very, very end of this property. And I was like, you know what? We got to sell this thing ASAP just because it wasn't fun not having the money. Like the hard money lender actually repaid me back every single time I spent it. So having this money back was great. But again, you can see we did basically the same exact style. brand new everything for $75,000. This house was one of the ones that flooded in Lake Placid, so we just redid everything again. But again, the numbers have to make sense. And a lot of these houses, I found what I could potentially sell it for from RPR and running comps and seeing the max approval I can go to. Most houses are going to be tough to find that. And these were both inside deals, which are even better. You know, you find someone that has a struggle and just needs to get out, and then you could come in and take over. And this was my best part right here, the bathroom of what we did. It was crazy because half of that used to be a closet. So just having ideas like that truly make the appeal of the house so much better is truly amazing. And we just made the house work better. Like the pantry used to be on the complete opposite side of the house from the kitchen, which makes no sense at all. So we readjusted parts of the house, took out a lot of walls, and just did a really good job on it. Again, that was another property where I managed the whole thing, saved a lot of money. I mean, if we would have used a builder, it would have probably been roughly, instead of 75 and 80, we would have probably spent 120 or so, because the builder wants to make their money as well. And a lot of people are lazy, and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll do the 120. Now, I knew a little bit about construction and all that because I grew up with my dad. But if you guys are going to do this yourself, I highly recommend you guys managing the products. Sure, it took me away from selling, but let's just say, for example, 2 years ago I had these 2 flips, and last year I didn't flip any houses. Well, I sold more houses last year than I did the year before because I focused on 2 flips. However, 2 years ago I made more money because I made $80,000 on the first house and $60,000 on the second house. So I made way more money than I did last year, and even though I sold more houses. So getting into the flipping scene is great. Now, it sucks for all because we have low inventory right now. So that's where you have to search for those in-house deals, kind of. And if you can find those, that's where you'll truly make the profit. Finding houses on here and on auctions are very tough right now until one day our market goes back to it. I highly recommend not going on auctions because those are more of bait and switches. For example, if you go to auction.com, they'll say, hey, houses, we're selling it for 100 grand. And just say, they'll say house is worth 305,000 fixed up, right? Well, they could technically want 290,000 for the house, even though they're listing it at 100 grand on the auction website. Their main goal is to get insane bids to bid it up. And if it never meets that 280 something thousand, whoever wins, just say if they win at 240,000, the bank is going to say, can you do 280? They'll say no, and then they'll just put it right back up for auction until someone else wins and gets to that 280 mark. I've seen banks do this for a year, 2 years. It's absolutely insane. And something on top of that is with auctions, generally the buyer has to pay a 5% buyer's premium on top of what they won for the bid. And that's not going to anyone except auction.com. So you really got to take that into account as well when you're buying it, because it just say easy numbers, you buy it for 100, you're technically buying it for 105 because of that buyer's 5% premium on there. So that's everything I can go over today. I do have to go, unfortunately, but I will record this. That way everyone can come back to it later and listen to the tips I talked about. Hard money lending is great because you always have cash on hand. However, you do save money with actually funding it yourself. But all routes can lead in different ways, and working with investors are amazing as well, because now you actually can just sit here, do your work, and actually look for them. You can set up an auto search. That way it's going to them constantly. When they find something, you can help them buy it and help them sell it, and you can do that 10 times a year. You do that 10 times a year, that's 20 houses. And then at some point, if you're doing great on finding those, I would recommend doing it yourself, because now you can actually make triple the money. Even though you were selling more houses, I'd much rather sell less houses and make more money off of something like this. So if you guys ever have any questions, always feel free to reach out, and I will do a follow-up video of this one other day. You guys take care.